Let's talk about how to pass the Google video interview. What's up guys, it's Mike from Job with English here with another Pass the Interview video. Today we're going to be talking about the tech giant Google and how to pass their video interview. We're going to be going through what their recruitment process is like and what you can expect and how long things take. The most common interview questions that was reported in our research from publicly available sources from candidates from the past 6 months. Other interview questions which came up which we thought were quite interesting. Now as ever, if you want more help with everything that you need to prepare for your Google interview, check out our Pass the Interview pack down in the description below. Let's get started. To Google's interview format, candidates reported the process took about 3 months to complete. You'll have 2 phone interviews which are about 45 minutes each. You'll then be invited for an in-person interview at Google, which is a technical interview based on the role you have applied for. It's fair to say we don't deal with technical questions. We do have this come up every so often when people will say to us, can you talk about software engineering or other tech related roles? That isn't really what we do. There are a lot of great YouTube channels out there that deal specifically with tech and tech related questions of a technical basis. We tend to deal more with motivational competency questions. So just a little side note there. So we've got 7 most common interview questions. Question number 1, why Google? A 45-minute interview is probably something where you're going to be able to talk at length, so maybe 3 or 4 minutes, particularly if it's a phone interview. So what I would say is that you should really come armed with some facts about Google and really do your research. Google is definitely a company which is well known for doing one thing and doing it well, and then only once they're the very best at it, going on and doing another thing. The people who work at Google are very bright, and they also have that kind of innovative mindset and attention to detail. So you're certainly going to be expected to be exactly the same. If this was me preparing for why I wanted to work for Google, I try and find as many fun and interesting facts about Google as I could, and also talk about what that meant to me personally. Not only is Google probably one of the biggest companies in the world based upon revenue, particularly if you couple that up with Alphabet when they split, but also it's a company that has changed the lives of pretty much everybody in the world in some form or fashion by making information easier to categorize and access on the internet. So it's something that is going to be personally applicable to you in how you use Google, how you use their products and what that means to you, and what it means to be a part of Google, and also the interesting and fun things that they're working on. Make sure you pick out facts which can't be said about anything else. So I would pick out maybe 6 or 7 facts and included them 1 or 2 personal stories that you find really interesting. For example, for me, something that I find absolutely fascinating is number 1, how many iterations it took for Google to refine their homepage. They went through this over many years, split testing everything that you could split test, including the number of words that they had on the page, the colour of the search button, changing the Google Doodle. All those things really speak to a great attention to detail. And also Gmail, the fact that you can arrange your inbox in so many interesting ways, and also that Google will remind you if you haven't replied to an email for a couple of days. I find that to be absolutely fascinating and something which is really meaningful to me and is very specific to Google and its products. Question number 2, why this role? So I know that Google's job descriptions are really quite in depth and they're really very clear about what they're looking for. So the first thing that you'll want to do is you're going to want to explain what you'd be expected to do in this job. What's your job going to be? What would be the day-to-day tasks that you'd need to do? Who would be the people that you'd have to speak to? The second thing that you're going to want to pick out is what are the skills that are going to make you really good at this job. You're probably going to have to name some hard skills. If you're talking about this from a technical sense, you may also want to talk about things that you've worked on, things that you've created, things that you have made. A lot of the people that I have worked with who've gone on to work on Google have actually done so because they've made cool things. They're genuinely really interested in technology. They might engage in hackathons and building random stuff in their free time, just stuff that's super useful and functional as well. So maybe talk about what's on your GitHub or projects that you've been involved in. I find that makes it very appealing rather than just you're a software engineer who studied software engineering and therefore wants to go and do that at Google. They tend to be looking for something a little bit more. Question number 3, how do you plan your time effectively? This is a really good question. I would definitely say, from my point of view, planning my time effectively comes down to a couple of key things, and it may be different for you. So I've always aspired to Paul Graham, who was the founder of Y Combinator. He used to talk about the maker and the manager schedule. The maker is basically the creative part of the process. I tend to do my maker things in the morning, so I don't take any meetings apart from if it's a team meeting, which happens on a Monday and Friday. I don't take any meetings or client calls before 12 o'clock because that's really my best time to create. I like to be in the office really early, about 6 or 6:30 in the morning, because actually that's the time when I get to work on something creatively for myself, whether that be daily email, a new product that's coming out, or just something that I'm thinking about and I want some time to put towards. And then my manager schedule is client calls, emails, responding to YouTube comments, anything that is really just kind of admin-y, but doesn't actually require a lot of thought from me, because it's something that I've done a lot, and it doesn't really involve a lot of creativity as well. The other thing that I tend to do, which is more related to something to do with Cal Newport, is this idea of batching. It's something that Tim Ferriss has spoken about, and a couple of other big productivity guys. It was made kind of quite famous in like Getting Things Done by David Allen. So batching is basically every day of the week is quite specific for us. For example, on a Monday we really just concentrate on coaching. On a Tuesday we may concentrate on marketing, and so on and so forth throughout the week. The reason why this is really useful and really effective is because what we end up doing is we have the time to really dig in and concentrate a little bit more on what's going on. So we have premium one-to-one clients that work with us. We tend to review what they've done, what we'd like them to do, are they moving forward to their goal of getting a job, when we're talking about marketing and so on and so forth. And also managing my time effectively definitely tends to depend on what are the priorities for that month or for that quarter. Are there new products that we're having released? What's my filming schedule like? Are there new members of staff that we've got coming on board, new contractors? Is there a big project that we're trying to get off the ground, or a product that's being released? Lots of different things to think about there, but I found it's quite helpful maybe for you to get some insight into how I look at that as an owner and a creator. Question number 4, what are your strengths? You're really looking to pick out the key skills that have been outlined in the job description. Remember, a lot of times making sure that you're a good match for a job is really just tailoring your skills and experience to the job that is required. What I tend to see very often in job interviews is that candidates tend to go off topic. So they'll talk about skills, experiences, strengths, weaknesses that really have nothing to do with the job at hand. So again, it's like me going into McDonald's saying that I want to work in the kitchen. The first question I get asked is, well, have you done that before? Have you made burgers? And so on and so forth. But if I then start talking about my fine arts degree and my experience of going to Venice to see classical paintings, it's not really relevant to the job that's in hand. Now, of course, that's quite an extreme example, but you would be surprised how often people just go completely off topic because they want to talk about things which are relevant to them rather than relevant to the job. So really approach this in mind and thinking, well, if I had to think about the three or four strengths that Google is really looking for somebody to have in applying for this role, what would they be, and how can I demonstrate those with my experiences? Question number 5, what is your biggest weakness? Now, I want to start off talking about this question by saying what I don't like when answers are given. I don't like answers which basically appear to be a bit false, or what I mean is disingenuous, which basically means they're not realistic or they're not really true to that person. So I work too hard, I struggle to say no, I don't turn work away, I'm a workaholic, I have a poor work-life balance. You're going to meet plenty of people like that. That's not necessarily a weakness in and of itself. And also, I don't tend to like giving answers which could be said by anybody. I would pick out a weakness that is true to a certain extent. Maybe it's a shortcoming for you, something that you're aware of that you need to improve. And the way that you really make this answer kind of stand out is you can say, well, I have in the past, my biggest weakness is that I've been a little bit disorganized, and this has led me to sometimes to forget appointments, so on and so forth. But what I've done is I've put a system in place that really battles against that shortcoming of mine by diarising, time management, allocation, batching, and so on and so forth. So really try and approach an interview, particularly like this, and try and be realistic and also honest. I think often candidates underestimate the fact that your interviewer has heard someone answer this question tens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of times, and we can generally smell out when somebody's not really giving a true answer. So something that is realistic, isn't a massive failing, and shows a demonstrable lesson is going to be a great answer for this. Question number 6, why should we hire you? So this is really kind of picking out your key skills and experiences that you feel matches the job description most closely. Something that I would really dissuade you from is what I call a little bit of a desperate attitude. So sometimes I'll find candidates say, oh, you know, I really want to do this job, I'm really going to work hard, or I just need a chance, I just need an opportunity. Bearing in mind, everybody kind of feels like that. And being desperate is never a good look. So therefore what I'd say to you is, you know, show an element of independence and also maturity by saying, well look, these are all the positive assets that I have, the positive skills and experiences that I believe that I can bring to this company, and I feel that you can see I would be a good person to have, and that's why you should give me the job. Question number 7, what is a difficult challenge that you have had to deal with? This should be similar to a difficult problem that you have had to solve, and really have a lot of different moving parts. Remember, we're talking about Google here. We're talking about people who solve difficult problems for a living. So it could be choosing where you wanted to study. It could be, you know, picking your dissertation project. But try and outline the steps that you had to go through in order to overcome this challenge. Did you have to learn new things, bring in new sources of information? What is it that you have to do? And it should be something that's quite meaty, and it's clear that this is something that would be quite hard. So let's do a couple more questions and a rapid fire round. What leadership qualities do you have? Chuck those leadership skills into Google and pick out some. So a lot of them is, for me, good leadership qualities that I like when I'm looking at people is an ability to think for themselves, an ability to work independently, to have new and innovative ideas, to be hardworking, to not shirk responsibility, to be willing to take on a difficult task. Something that I find incredibly important in people is being able to admit when you're wrong, and say, well, I made a mistake. For myself, in a leadership capacity, I find it really quite freeing that I'm perfectly happy to admit when I'm wrong, or if I've seen something and I kind of think, well, actually I now know that not to be true, and I'm happy to admit that. What is a difficult project you have worked on? Same for a difficult challenge you've had to overcome. Make it meaty, make it significant, lay out the steps. What experience do you have for this role? So that's really just a case of going through the experience that you've had, whether that be work, personal, academic. Try to concentrate on where you've done things rather than learned things. I think that's quite important. Tell us about your work or university experience you've had. Again, tailor it to the role that you're doing and the things that you're going to be applying yourself to. And again, concentrate on what you've done rather than what you've learned. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? At Google, doing whatever I would be doing in that hierarchy. Tell us about a time you worked as part of a team. Using STAR format, situation, task, action, result. Make sure you concentrate on the action. Ideally, it should be an experience which comes from your work experience. If not, it can come from extracurricular, volunteering or academic, and really concentrate on picking out those skills that really demonstrate you're good at teamwork in the action part. Guys, I hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you want access to this research note and sources, as well as a ton of other helpful resources to help you pass the Google interview, check out the Pass the Interview pack down in the description below. Drop us a comment down below, let us know how we did, was this helpful? Do you have an interview coming up? Did you have an interview? Did you watch this video? Was it helpful? Is there another company that you'd like us to cover? Wherever you are, I wish you the very best of luck with your interview. Good luck.